What's up, world? So this past weekend's beta was really awesome, and I spent the majority of my time playing Rogue, as most people would expect me to. But with that being said, lots and lots of people were playing Twisted Blades, and I played quite a bit of Twisted Blades too, and I had a lot of fun with that. However, my favorite actually was Barrage, and I don't really see many people actually running with Barrage, but a lot of people were asking me, hey, I like what you're doing with Barrage. You seem to be doing really well. Can you make a guide out of it? You know, do a planner and things. And so out of high demand, I decided to go ahead and make a video on my Barrage build. So the three things that I can guarantee you if you play this well and set this up correctly is that you will one-shot trash mobs, you will one-shot elites, and your dungeon boss fights should be 8 seconds or under. So if that sounds good to you, let's dive right on in. So there's three main things to understand when it comes to playing with Barrage, and that is positioning, distance, and how to ricochet. So when it comes to positioning, this is important because when you actually use the Barrage skill, the arrows actually start in the middle and it basically fades out on the 5th arrow. Now, of course, we're using combo points here, so we actually have 3 additional arrows at max value, so the arc kind of goes a little bit further out too as well. So you really don't want to be too close, but you also don't want to be far enough. You want to make sure that you're positioning yourself kind of sort of middle range. Try to be in the position to where the mobs are kind of scattered around you in that big arc, so therefore every arrow can hopefully hit a different target, and upon doing so, you really should be able to one-shot most things around you if that is done correctly. In terms of distance, that's important as well. You need to be able to assess whether or not do I start the fight at mid-range distance to try to clear for AoE, or do I want to target the elite that's in that area to get rid of them really quickly first. So generally speaking, I tend to like to start off at mid-range distance first, hopefully get the one-shots going on. If there's any elites left, I will shadow step directly to them so I don't waste time, and then shotgun them for a one-shot with this build. So but there are times where if I find, okay, this enemy I already know it's gonna be pretty difficult to deal with, I might actually shadow step directly to the elite first, get rid of them first, and then finish mopping up the floor if the ricochets haven't already done so. And the last is how to ricochet, and this one is a little interesting because Barrage can kind of feel underwhelming if we're not taking advantage of the ricochet, especially early game, because we're low on crit chance. And of course, with more crit chance, the more likely you are to ricochet because it will ricochet upon crit chance. So we kind of have to rely more on vulnerable affixes or vulnerable stats, and our basic attack allows us to do that, as well as the shadow and imbue will help us really get those ricochets going until we can get more crit chance later in the game. For our specialization, we're going to go with combo points so we can maximize the amount of damage that each arrow does, as well as give us 3 additional arrows to do what we came to do, and that is to mop the floor with the trash mobs in one go, mop the floor with the elite if they still survive the burst, and then of course very quick dungeon boss kills. So this is going to allow us to do that effectively, and don't worry, you're not going to spend too much time shooting your basic attacks. This build is designed for you to basically get to your burst as quickly as possible. See you ahead. All right, so let's dive into the build real quick. I'm gonna try to make this short. In terms of basic skills, we're gonna go straight for puncture. The other ones are just not worth it at all, but several reasons why puncture is the GOAT here in terms of basic skills. One, it just attacks faster than the others naturally, and because we're doing combo points, we don't want to spend too much time using a basic attack. We want to try to get to the spinners as fast as possible because that's going to increase our DPS. So puncture is king here. Not only does puncture allow us to do that, but it also provides 2 modifiers that works well with damage modifiers on our gear. So it slows, which offers a crowd control. Again, damage to crowd control enemies on gear works well. And it also provides a vulnerability, which again also works really well with Barrage ricochet ability, as well as just more damage from damage modifiers on your gear. So you want to go with puncture here, just 1 point is fine. The second one, enhanced puncture, is just a natural passive you're going to go to, and this is going to allow you to be able to maintain practically full energy in your globe, which is also going to work with the legendary aspect we're going to talk about right after this. So therefore your globe is constantly full. And then of course the bottom left, again, this is what helps you get the vulnerability and makes it very easy for you to hit an enemy so you can do your combo points thing. So this is what you want to do for your basic attack. Going down to the core skills, Barrage, which is obvious, is kind of the point of the video here. So you're going to go Barrage, you're going to max that out all 5 points. Then next is, of course, is Enhanced Barrage. Ricochet chance to increase is increased to 100% for arrows that damage a vulnerable enemy or critical striking enemy. So this is very important because if you notice, a vulnerable enemy. So kind of catching my drift here, the synergy here so far. So we want to make sure we have that, obviously. And then of course Advanced Barrage. Whenever a single cast of Barrage ricochets at least 4 times, your next cast gains 20% increased critical strike chance. So basically you should almost always have a 20% increased critical strike chance if you do the whole ricochet setup properly, which we kind of mentioned earlier in this video. So this is one that's going to always be up, and it's really, really nice to have because the synergy is just so amazing. Moving down, I take 1 point into Shadow Step, and reason being for a build that can be played at range or melee is because when we want to get to the last target that just happened to not die, and it's usually kind of that leftover elite that just is going to be stubborn, you can just instantly Shadow Step to it right behind and then shotgun once and then they are dead. And so Shadow Step does this really well to get around and, you know, take out the tough target really, really quickly, or just the leftover target that's fast. You can put a point down here too as well to increase your critical strike chance, and then you can either go left or right if you have any more points left. Here I don't, this is just the amount of points that we were able to use in beta, but you can either go down to the bottom right to shorten the cooldown to be able to do it more often, or you can go to the bottom left, which is going to allow you to stun the enemies for 2 seconds, making it really safe for you to be able to Shadow Step behind and shotgun a couple of shots and then leave. So up to you, you can do that, you don't have to, but really cool options if you want to. Then to the right here, I take weapon mastery, which is really nice, especially since you're going to be using a crossbow because it just hits way harder than the bow does, and you're not going to use the bow or the crossbow for a basic attack. So but maxing out weapon mastery gives you 15% increased critical strike damage, which is really nice because you're going to be critting quite a bit, so more damage is never a bad thing, right? Moving down here, again, more damage exploit, 18% increased damage to healthy and injured enemies. Really, really nice to have. I just put 3 points into that. Then I did Dark Shroud here, and this is pretty much Rogue's only defensive skill, and it's very important to kind of have for most builds because Rogue can be pretty squishy. So generally just having 1 point in here is just generally enough. But if you want to be tanky, obviously, you know, pour some more points into it. But I did 1 point here, going down to 1 point here is just a natural progression. And then you have 2 choices here. I went with more crit chance because again, I'm trying to maximize ricochet and the synergy there. But for later on, when you can get more crit chance on gear, like, you know, mid game, late game, I would probably consider using this for the extra 15% movement speed, which feels really, really nice to have. Going down here, for your imbues, basically Shadow at the moment, Shadow imbue is just king. I'm not saying the others are bad, just Shadow's just it's just too good right now to really not use for most of your builds here. Not only that, but there's real synergy between Shadow, Imbue, and also Barrage. So you're going to take a point into here. Also 1 point down here because again, 25% increase critical strike chance against injured enemies affected by shadow imbuement. So again, more crit chance, more ricochets, you know, more damage. You get the idea, right? The synergy. And then down here to the bottom left, also very good too, because let's just say you happen to not kill anything on the first wave. Well, everything at that point is vulnerable because something exploded right next to the target. So now they're vulnerable for 2 seconds. So your next rotation, you're going to be guaranteed to, have ricochets going on. So again, very important for Barrage, and just make sure that your cleanup is just, well, fairly easy, right? Then you want to kind of come over here. Shadowcrash isn't really that great. However, you need a point into that to get into the one that is great, and that is each time you kill an enemy with shadow damage, you generate 10 energy. So when you're mass clearing or farming or whatever you're doing, this ensures that you keep a full energy glove. Now you may or may not need that based on some legendary aspects that you might get along the way, but it's never, you know, a bad thing to kind of have a point into that if you're feeling like your energy is running low. So play around with it, kind of see what works for you. Then lastly, I put a point into Shadow Clone, and this is more so just for like boss fights in dungeons, or like, you know, kind of really boss fights and the world boss. I don't really hardly ever get to really use this too much because stuff just dies so quick, but it's there. I think it's pretty cool, and it's nice to kind of pop when you are fighting, you know, something more tough, like let's say the Butcher for example, right? But you don't necessarily have to go Shadow Clone. I think this is just an open slot. You do whatever you feel is right for you. But yeah, this is the basic breakdown of, you know, the set build. And as you see, I have it copied, so I'm going to post a link in the description so therefore everyone can look at what I'm doing with this particular build. And I'm going to also make a command on Twitch so therefore people can pick this up and be like, hey, thanks, you know. But yeah, for the build to shine, the aspects are actually really important to make sure we can do what we set out to do. So sorry for the Tetris blocks here that you kind of see on the screen. I'm gonna try to go over this pretty quickly. At the top, you know, you have the aspect of the branch and volleys. This is barrage arrows have a 15% chance to split into 2 arrows whenever they ricochet. This is going to, well, ensure that if there's anything alive that they're gonna wish that they weren't. Another one that's very important is attacking enemies with the basic skill increases the damage of your next core skill cast by X% up to 50%. This is really important, and you want to actually put this either on an amulet or weapon because you, again, you don't want to spend too much time using your basic attack. You just really want to throw 3 and then throw your barrage. So having this on the amulet gives you 45% max, while on the weapon it will hit the 50 mark. But just being able to cast 3 and then cast barrage will get you near maximum value damage to ensure that you deal huge bursts. Underneath that, you have the basic skills gain X% attack speed. This one's kind of more sort of obvious. We just want to be able to attack faster to be able to get to our core skill barrage quicker. The one beside that is skills deal up to X% increased damage based on your available primary resource when cast, receiving the maximum benefit while you have full primary resource. Now this one is very important. This is huge because of course when you're using your basic attack, that also helps you generate resources. Your shadow imbue, whenever they blow up, gives you 10 energy per explosion. So these are going to be major factors in keeping up practically a full energy glow, which you really should be almost all the time, giving you the maximum damage bonus for that big burst. And then to the top right, you see a boot. Now the legendary power on the boot itself isn't as crucial. It's just nice to have for movement speed. As you can see, critical strikes grant movement speed for 1 second up to 6 seconds. Is nice to have. But if you see the green circle on the boot, this one is actually I find really important. And that is the attacks reduce evades cooldown. So that is what you would like to seek after on your boots for this affix, because since you're attacking really fast and you're attacking often, you're able to get your evade off all the time. So like if you want to sit there and be aggressive with your evade, after a couple of attacks, you have your evade back up so you can jet back out if you need to without having to slot an additional movement skill on your bar to do so. But this affix really makes moving around the battlefield super easy, and it makes you really mobile, and that's something that as a rogue player you always want to be. And that's the build. Really effective, super fun, highly mobile, and there's a bit of future proofing with that, you know, for the past level 25 endeavors. If If you have any questions, you can always contact me via Discord and also via live stream. I'll be happy to help you. Both of the links for those are below, and I'll see you in beta this weekend.